Good afternoon, Stephen.
Good afternoon, Adam. How are you, mate?
I'm great. You just wrote an article for the FedWed blog about the book Atomic Habits, and I just thought we should make a little video to go with
That's convenient because I've actually got it on me now.
That is such a coincidence.
Yes.
So, just as a bit of an intro, like, why do you feel so strongly about writing a review about this book specifically for wedding photographers and wedding filmmakers?
I want to say, like, I read a lot. I don't read as much as I'd like to, but I only ever really read nonfiction books and, self-help kind of books. And I always take notes along the way. And I just found this one really good, really. And it's I want to say it's the book I recommend the most, really. It's one of the books I do recommend the most, but there's so many people in my circle that have already read it, so I don't recommend it to as many people as I'd like to. But now that we've got FedWed as a platform, I thought it'd be a great place to recommend it there.
Well, I've never read it, so you can treat this as you telling me why I should read this book. Yeah. So, you said
first of all, this isn't a sales pitch. I'm not like saying, "Hey, there's a book review. You have to buy this book." I wrote the review just organically, really, because I benefited from it a lot, and I just thought, other people can benefit from it too. And I thought if I can just break down as a wedding photographer how it's helped my wedding photography business, because sometimes it's easy to read all these books and then there's loads and loads of content. It gets a bit overwhelming. And then before you know it, everything you've read just been forgotten about and you just go back to what you were doing normally. So what I do when I read books, though, as a tip, is I go through and highlight stuff in the book. So when I'm reading, you can see here that I've highlighted something in the book. So as I'm reading, I always have a highlighter with me and highlight stuff. And then when I finish the book, I have another little notebook here. And then I write all of the highlighted bits out in the book. It's like doing lines or something back at school. But then I go back and then I can always just go back to this book if I feel like, my habits have dropped or I remember learning so much from that book, but I don't know if I'm implementing it anymore. I can always go back to my little, what's it called? The little blue oracle here with all of my self-help book notes are in here. So I find that when I'm reading these self-help books, it's easy to, you can listen to them and then forget about them the next day. But if you highlight the stuff that you like, rewrite it out and you just remember the stuff that's relevant to you. That's a cool tip anyway.
Slight tangent, but you've obviously read the paper copy of the book and you like writing in a paper notebook. Why is that like a thing for you compared to like listening to an audiobook or reading on a Kindle or something?
Well, audiobooks, I like audiobooks. I listen to them. Obviously, I do a lot of driving in my job, so I do listen to audiobooks, but I feel like if I listen to a self-help book, 2 hours of driving, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to retain that information. So that's the best, because the whole point of these self-help books is to learn, right? Not just consume the content and then get on with your day. So the self-help books are basically textbooks, aren't they? Really, they're like, you should study them and understand them if you're going to give up the time to read them. So I think if I highlight the stuff that I like, write it down, then that's my way of studying. Do you know what I mean? Like a university student is studying a paper, they can't just read it and go, right, that's read. Or they can't just listen to the audio version and then just go out and party or whatever. They have to study it, highlight it, write notes on it, and write their own thesis. I never went to university, so I don't know what they do. But
I don't know what the words are.
Well, they study it. Do you know what I mean? So I like to try and study my books, my self-help books especially.
Yeah, and did you read this one because for any specific reason or just because it had been recommended to you?
Well, it was when it came out, it was in all of the self-help book charts. Like it was always number one everywhere. So I think he sold like over 15 million copies. So for good reason. And, even just, I've always, since, starting my business, wanted to improve my business. And on the back, it says, a revolutionary system to get 1% better every day. These small changes will have transformative effects on your career, your relationships, on your life. I just like the sound of reading it. And it's quite easy to read. It's not that fun to read, but it's quite easy to read. And all the chapters are summarized in a really good way with just bite-sized bullet points. So you could actually go buy this book, go to the summaries of each chapter, read the bullet notes and just highlight those, and you'd benefit it from it that way. But obviously I've read the whole book now, so.
Oh, good work. But what compels you that for this book specifically to think I need to write a review of this and get other people reading it? Because you've said in the review, you've opened the review basically by listing all the things that we have to do. We think we're photographers, but we've actually got 30 other jobs to do.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the actual percentage is, but it's like a running joke, really, that like, you and I are both photographers, but what percentage of what we actually do in our businesses is taking photos? It's a small amount, and all successful, or all people that want to be successful photographers and filmmakers, they want a successful business, and the business is, like a 5 to 10% taking photos, and the rest is everything else I've listed in that review. And maybe there's more, or maybe I've spread that list out a lot, but it always seems like a lot when you think, you run a photography business and you're not really taking that many photos, So totally. I just thought, as a photographer, I learned a lot from it, and it helped me with all of those sides of running the business, the non-taking photo sides, of how to run it and be better. Because I'm a bad procrastinator, and I don't want to speak for everybody else in the world, but I think procrastination is a common practice with a lot of people. I know a lot of people I know do suffer from it on different levels, and it just really helped me out a lot with the procrastination side of things.
I mean, I'm probably procrastinating right now because I probably should be editing a wedding. I've decided we needed to do this interview instead. All right, we'll skip on then. So you've basically done it as 3 tips. So your first tip, you've said join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. Surround yourself with people who have the habits you want to have. So summarize that for us.
Well, the industry can be a lonely industry, and I mentioned in the review that we're photographers, and you and I are really good friends. We're in the same line of work. We live really close, and we don't see each other that often. So it's unlikely that you're going to be connected to many, many people in the industry unless you put yourself out there and get involved in it. And this doesn't even have to be like wedding photography or videography related, really. It's just that, there's a quote in there saying that you're the sum of 5 people you spend the most time with. So the more people you spend time with in that industry, the more like those people you're going to become. So joining things like photography communities and joining like co-working spaces and other entrepreneurs and spending time with those people is only going to enhance, your ability to be a photographer or a business person.
Yeah, totally. It makes me think of one. I think it was in an interview a long time ago, but Roy Keane was talking about basically when he moved from Nottingham Forest to Man United. And I'm not dissing Nottingham Forest here, Nottingham Forest fans, but he said at Forest, he was like, he thought he'd reached the top level, and he was existing at the highest, the peak of his athletic abilities. But when he came to United and he saw there was another level to go to, and then his goal became to get to that level. So it's like, it is a true thing where it's such a solo job, this, isn't it? That if you, without any outside influence or information, you wouldn't know what are good habits or what things you could be doing.
Yeah, this is a really extreme example, but if you made 5 new friends tomorrow and they ended up being your closest friends as of tomorrow, and they all played golf and they had really, really, really good handicaps in golf, you're going to get sucked into going to the driving range with them one day. They'll say, because they're your new best friends. So you'll go, okay, I'll come to the driving range. You have no intention of playing golf at all. I know you personally don't. So, those people will be like, Adam, just come down. So you'll be like, okay, I'll come down. Then before you know it, they're like, just come for a round and just follow us around. And then next minute you join in, and because they're so good, you're going to end up being, a half decent golfer because you're spending all that time with them. And it works the same way. Like if you want to be a better photographer, spend time with better photographers. If you want to be a better businessman, spend time with better businessmen. It's quite self-explanatory, really. And, these community, it's not like you are going to have to sign up to every photography community or you have to sign up to every co-working space. It could literally be as small as the photographer who lives down the street and saying, do you want to hang out more often? Do you know what I mean? And meet for a coffee. And then he says, oh yeah, I've just blogged a wedding and I'm just doing all my headings, and you don't put headings in yours, and you're like, oh, I'll start doing headings in mine then. And then he's learning things from you and you're learning things from him. So that's a small scale. So when I say join a photography community, it can be just, someone down the road, or it doesn't even have to be an actual wedding photographer. It could be someone who you could learn more about gear or whatever. But like I say, you surround yourself with these, like-minded, similar people, then you're going to result in being better, I guess.
No, completely. You'll think this is the same as well, but whenever I do hang out for, a significant amount of time with anyone else who's in the similar job that I'm doing. I always learn stuff. I always think, oh, how did I not already know that? But
when I was a kid, if I watched like a karate movie or, movie at the end, I'd be like jumping around the living room thinking I was some sort of martial arts expert, you know what I mean? Just because I'd watch some sort of film, get inspired by the movie and stuff. And I remember, I've been to photography conferences in the past and seen people who are world famous photographers or whatever, and then just been super, super inspired to be better, and that's even enough. I'm not even giving any practical examples. It just makes you want to be better and do more and try new things and be more ambitious and create a better wedding. And, yeah.
Yeah. But even putting to one side, like the quest for excellence or whatever you want to call it, just hanging out with people, the whole habits thing, I guess. I mean, I've not read this book, so you're gonna have to tell me if I'm right here, but even if you're not on a quest to be the best or to whatever, improve your business exponentially, make a load of money, whatever, by hanging out with people, you might just learn stuff that saves you a load of time or frees up your time, because your goal in life might be just to have a load of spare time to do things you love and spend time with the people you love. So learning a new tip from people who are in the industry you're in, doing the job you're doing, sometimes that can be huge. Just going, tell me more about, like, how do you do this and how do you do that? So it is cool.
Yeah, I did Ferioristi's workshop I've been going for about a year, maybe. I can't remember the exact time, and it's going back a bit now. But I didn't even know what Photo Mechanic was, and I know other software, Lightroom and whatever, you can cull on those other platforms now. But back then, Photo Mechanic was, the one, and everyone. Someone mentioned Photo Mechanic, and I said, "What's Photo Mechanic?" And everyone looked at me like, "That poor soul, man! Like, he's been losing half of his life to going through his photos in a different way." So just being on that. I mean, obviously, I learned a lot from Fair at the time, but I learned how much time I would have saved just by everyone in the room looking at me thinking, "What, you don't know what Photo Mechanic is?" Obviously, they weren't being patronizing, but just being in that room with those people saved me hours and hours and hours of time.
Yeah. Completely. So let's skip on to tip 2. You've put tip 2: to resist temptation, just ignore it. It creates space for the craving to pass. And this is where you talk a lot about procrastination. So why did you pick out this specifically as something to major on?
Well, the example I used is that I do all my own editing because, I'm relatively quick at it. I'm good at it. I'm precious over it. And I'm, I like having my control over my editing. So, but, sometimes I shoot like a lot of multiple day weddings. And then, back when I have a lot less photos, I get the wedding done. But sometimes it's overwhelming when I've got like way more photos to do in these multi-day events that I'm shooting now. And like, I'll just see the number and it'll just be so overwhelming, and I'll be just processing the images, and I'll like, I'll get to start and I'll get to like 80 and I'm just going through, and I'm, like I say, I'm easily distracted. I'm a bit of a procrastinator, and I'll just be like, oh, I could just go and make a cup of tea. I'll make a cup of tea when I get to 100 or something pictures, and then I look down, it's like 69, and I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered waiting until I've got to 100. I'll go and make a cup of tea now. And then the dog looks at me and he's like, I was like, oh, just go for a walk, take him around the park, come back in, and then, I'll take my boots off and the porch will be muddy, and I'll be like, oh, just going to tidy this porch up because it's doing my head in. And before you know it, there's so much time getting lost when I'm supposed to be processing the images that like it starts thieving your time. And I guess going back to before I start rolling off on a tangent, I guess this tip is that like, we have these temptations to procrastinate, or at least I do anyway. And that's what I wanted the review to be. It's a personal thing for me. I'm not telling anyone how they should or shouldn't be doing things. But for me now, as soon as I start getting to, if I'm processing a wedding and there's like a lot of images and I've got a long way to go and I start feeling like, oh, I need to take a break. I can't be bothered doing this right now. I just force myself and say, just pause for a minute and just think, if you go and make a cup of tea and then walk the dog, come back and do the porch, how many photos could you process then? And it's not like oh, I'll go and do that and those photos will edit themselves. I'm going to come back with now less time to do them and more images to do. So I just pause and tell myself that, I need that distraction just to leave my presence, take a minute and then just keep going. And then before you know it, I look down on it and I'm on a photo 142. And then I start feeling good then, thinking, so glad I didn't go and do those things, because now I'm hypothetically 100 pictures ahead of that guy that went and did all those chores. And that inspires me to want to do more and then not let that guy down and then keep processing. And then I get to 400 and go, do you know what? I'm actually going to go and have a cup of tea and sit down. And then I enjoy the cup of tea and the dog walk, knowing that I've got all that much more work done. And then I come back and then sit down and don't let that happen again. And I guess it's a bit of a practice, really. The more I do that, the better I get at, not letting those distractions get to me and getting my work done. And then it makes me more productive, and that, gives me more time at the end of the day. And then I feel better that I've actually got the work done. Because sometimes just knowing what work you've got to do is a lot worse than actually doing the work itself. So if I can push through, ignore those distractions, and it makes it so much better.
Nice. It feels like it's a bit easier said than done, though, sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. I'm saying it now thinking, who am I kidding? I'm definitely going to be quitting when I start editing later on. But I won't, though. I won't. I'll sit there and think, push through. But like I say in the review, even if I say, I'm going to have a cup of tea at 100 and I get to 60 and then I go, I'm taking a break now. Even if I do another 20 pictures and then I process those and I've pushed through that barrier, start off small. Don't tell yourself, you're going to have a break at every 100. And then you get to 60 going, oh, I need to take a break. Oh, no, I've read this tip in this book that says you've got to ignore that and keep going and burn yourself into the ground. Start small and go, do you know what? Okay, I am going to go and walk the dog and make a cup of tea, but I'm going to do another 20 photos first and then I'm going to go and do it. And then, you've beat yourself, really. Do you know what I mean? And I guess it's just a game against yourself. And obviously you don't want to burn yourself out, but it's so good, such a good feeling when you get the work done and you push through.
Yeah, but all of these tips, really, you can tailor it to your own personality and ability to focus, because that's the big thing with, especially with stuff like editing, and a lot of people obviously don't even sit there and edit these days. But like you say, it could be that if you're the type of personality that struggles to sit and focus for a long time, your goal might be 10 photos, or whereas for me, I know I'm incredibly good at hyper focus and just getting the blinkers on and dialing in, and my goal could be 500 or a full wedding. So a lot of this
that's
stuff,
the small scale side of it as well. It's it could be something bigger, maybe you want to blog a full wedding, and which is more than editing a photo, moving on. But if you want to blog a wedding and you keep putting that off and putting it off and procrastinating it with just filling your day with other things, if you say, how important is this job that I need to do? Is this task going to get me closer to my goals? If the answer is yes, you don't want to be procrastinated too much, because in our business, in our line of work, whether you're processing a wedding, whether you're writing a blog, or, whatever you're doing, a lot of this stuff moves us closer to our goals and frees us up more time. So, if you cannot procrastinate the bigger things and do them, it only moves you closer to your goal anyway, which is a better reward than a dog walk and a cup of tea, I think.
It is.
But like you say, it's all easier said than done. And some people, they have to work at home with their kids. Some people have to work at home at weekends because they've got full-time jobs. It's so much easier said than done. But the whole point of this book is everything's broken down. There's not a lot of jargon in it, and it's broken down into bite-sized pieces. And like I say, when I write these notes down in here, I highlight the words that I like in the book. I write them down verbatim in here, and then try and write a little paragraph about how how that's personally going to work for me.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And then, because you go on and really, tip 3, I mean, a lot of these 3 tips are kind of, they overlap a little bit, don't they? Because tip 3, you've put, if I miss one day, simple rule is never miss 2. And that's where you talk about things like SEO and blogging and obviously writing articles and stuff. So that seems like...
I brought that tip in because I think it relates to us so well, because most people in our industry have got, 20, 30, 40, 50 weddings to edit that year. People have to post. Well, they don't have to, I'm not saying, but people would like to post 365 times in a year on Instagram. People would like to do 20 blogs a year. But the only way you're going to be able to do that is with consistency, really. And if you keep doing it, going, oh, I'll post on Instagram today, then the next day, then you don't for 3 weeks. And then you say, oh, I'm going to start blogging on my weddings. So you blog one, then the next week you blog one. And then you're like, oh, I can't be bothered now. And then you miss one, then you miss 2. And then I don't really want to call them failures. It's quite a dirty word. But when you miss doing the things that you sort of subconsciously planned, that then becomes the habit. Do you know what I mean? If I posting on Instagram every day, it doesn't take too long. but it soon can do, because you've got to start looking for different content, go back and find photos that you want to post on there. So it's easy to put off. All of these things that I'm listing are, always easier said than done. But that's why the tip's so good, because I'm not saying that you have to post every day on Instagram. That would be a great habit to have. And if you could train yourself to have that habit, then that's great. So posting once a week might be more digestible for everyone. And even if it's not, posting every other week, if you can commit to that and that becomes the habit, and you never miss a fortnightly Instagram post, which isn't that much to ask of anyone, I don't think, posting fortnightly, then once that becomes the habit, you're guaranteed, 26 Instagram posts a year by doing that. Do you know what I mean? And, some people might not post that often because they try and post too much and then they miss posting, and then they miss posting again, and then that becomes the habit. So because it's quite repetitive what we do, like we all have blogs to do, we all have weddings to process, we all have Instagram things to do, we've got to do our accounts and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's, like I say, it's all about making those habits and making them stick.
Yeah, and making them achievable as well, isn't it? Because that's what you're saying here, basically, that you at one time you had your target for yourself was to publish an article on your website once a week, and then you didn't do that for a bit, and then you broke that habit. So you set a more achievable target for you, which was one a month after that.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like I was posting once a week, and it felt good, and then it slowly started getting a bit tough, and then I was putting pressure on myself. Then I was like, oh no, I don't want to break this, so I kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And then it became too much, and I was like, oh, I'm not posting this week. And then the following week, it's like, oh, it won't matter if I miss again. And then you miss again, then you do a post, and then another one. It became too much, and then you start really resenting the idea of doing it. So I'd rather do, I'll exaggerate a bit, but I'd rather do one a month consistently forever than try and do, one a week for like 3 weeks, then get fed up of it and then miss, because you'll end up maybe just doing the same amount anyway. So if you can make that become the actual habit itself, that it's just the consistency. So it's okay to scale it down and or ramp it up, but what you don't want is the not doing it to become the habit. So it's okay to go from 1 week to 2 weeks to 1 month, as long as they're not just excuses to slow yourself down. And then before you know it, you're just doing one a year. Just maybe it's worst case scenario, it gets to one every 2 months, and you just stick to that, and then you start building your confidence up, and you start working up to doing it more frequently again, and just try and stick to it. Like you say, it's just, the whole book is just about habits, really. And if you can, the habits can be as intense or as not so intense as you like,
just to fit around your own personality or other restrictions you might have in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Like everyone's different. And when I first had the idea for it, I was like, I'm not going to tell everyone that this is how you're going to be doing it. But I thought it doesn't matter, because, some people might have, full-time jobs. There's a lot of part-time wedding photographers who have full-time jobs, who are teachers. So they work all week, and then they've got like marking to do at weekends, lesson planning to do during the night. And then there's me going, you need to be blogging once a week. What are you doing? Like, just tell them, like, if they can only like blog every other month, then make that the habit and stick to it. Do you know what I mean? And, some people, everyone's completely different, like you say, in terms of how much they work, what their family situation's like, who brings in the money. I know another photographer of mine, friend of mine, whose partner works all week, and he's sort of part-time, and he gets 1 day a week to work on his business, and that's it. And he needs to work out, if that's what he's doing on that day. So his time management has to be really strict. And, these habits are become more important to him because he has a lot less time than they are to you and I. And on the opposite end of the scale, people like you and I who do it full time, who are really busy with it, it's also difficult because it's easy to become complacent, or you think, well, you haven't got a job and, you work full time on this, so there's no excuse. So you need to be doing it. And then you put pressure on yourself there, and then you start resenting the idea of doing it. So that's why, again, the habits become important, and why you bring them into your life and business.
Yeah, that's the thing. That, I mean, I've not read the book, but that's the thing with habits, isn't it? It's like, if you haven't got a habit, everything feels like a lot of pressure. Yeah, you've got to do these 100 things every day. But it's about boiling that down and creating little systems and little processes and habits, I guess, around the stuff you have to do. Because we're all told, aren't we? Like, you've got to do 3 reels a day and 4 posts a day and 10 TikToks a week and all this kind of stuff that you're supposed to do. But
yeah, you haven't mentioned like contacting your clients or booking a hotel or processing a wedding or backing up or buying a new hard drive or checking your gear or charging your equipment, there's a billion other things that you're supposed to do. Because it's easy to say, just post once a day on Instagram. It takes like 5-10 minutes. And I feel bad saying it when I only do like 20, 25 weddings a year, that I ain't got 5-10 minutes a day to post on Instagram. But that's why if you can introduce a habit and introduce a system around posting on Instagram, that you do it, every 3 days. And if you can, plan out some time to schedule them or make a list. But again, that takes time in itself. So, but that's why, read the book, make notes and integrate it into your own life in your own way.
Nice. Yeah. I think it's made me want to read it, and I've wanted to read it for a long time, but I'm one of these people who's guilty of buying a book, sticking it on the bookshelf. And then,
well, if you are, buy the book. Obviously, I'm not affiliated to the book in any way. Buy the book. And then just go to the chapter summaries here. I don't know, my camera will pick it up. And then there's a chapter summary here with just bullet points. So you could probably just read those. And then if you like those bullet points or they resonate with you, then go back and read that chapter, or just read the summaries only. Highlight all your favorite parts and then just, go back and read those bits. Do you know what I mean? You have to sit there, read the front page all the way to the back page and be overwhelmed by it. It's like I say, these self-help books can be like textbooks, and it's done like that. Do you know what I mean? He's like I say, there's no jargon in it. And the chapters are really well summarized at the end, like I've said. And it's just systems really that you can just use and build around your own lifestyle. But I've gone off on a tangent again, but you were saying that you like the idea of reading a book, but you don't read a lot of books. Then don't read the book, buy it and just use it as a guide and read the summaries. If you like the summaries, go back and read the chapter and then make notes and just start implementing things really slowly. Don't force yourself to be like, right, I need to be this atomic habit guy now in my business. That's to change overnight. If you can buy this book for like a tenner and it changes your business by 1%, over the next 5 to 10 years, you'll end up making that money back.
Nice. I like it. But, just to finish on as well, like I'm trying to spend less time on my phone these days. And I think everybody's got a habit that they maybe don't realize they have, but it's everybody's habit is to wake up, reach over, pick the phone up, and then spend 20 minutes, half an hour checking everything on the phone. Make sure you've not missed anything. So it's wouldn't be a bad habit to begin in that first half hour of the day could be just, or even 10 minutes, like 10 minutes, that first 10 minutes, just read a bit of a book or, the last 10 minutes. I like the idea of reading. I've
got a bookshelf here. It's full of books and I haven't read half of them probably, but I have read quite a few of them. But I worked out the other day that where's my calculator? Get my phone out already. But I think I worked out if you read 10 pages a day for a year, that works out at 3,600 pages. And an average book is about, how many pages has this got? 253. So if you divide 3,600 by, let's say, 300 pages in a book, that's 12 books a year. If you read 10 pages a day, you'll read 12 books a year. And if you're making notes on those books and highlighting them, 10 pages a day, it can change your life, change your health, change your business just from 10 pages a day.
It's a bold claim. And those 10 minutes could easily be the first or last 10 minutes of your day. And you wouldn't notice a difference in your life then, would you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for the review, mate.
No worries. Hope people found it useful. I certainly found the book useful, and yeah, and he's got a newsletter as well, which is just the same really, and it's easy I have like a folder in my emails, and I keep putting all of his newsletters in there, saying I'm going to read them. But I've started digesting them a bit really now, and putting his newsletter, really dead bite-sizable newsletter, in here. Like I write them down, the bits that I like, not every single newsletter down or every single point. Some of his points are great, but I'm like, does it really resonate with me? Is it going to be super practical for me? And I write those down in here as well. And they help me. Maybe I'll sell this book one day.
Yeah, it'd be worth a
fortune. Again, it'll be worthless actually, because it's all resonated to me, and that's the importance of it, really.
Good tips.
Cheers, mate. Good chat.
Same to you.